First and Now, the official BC Lions podcast is back. Better than ever, maybe not, but we're here. We're jacked up, broadcasting from the Go-Goat Sports Studios inside the Wall Center, one of downtown Vancouver's most prestigious locations, if I don't say so myself. Love it here. Matt Baker, Nick Kowalski. Nicholas, how you doing?
Doing well as always. And yourself?
I'm well as can be, 3-0. Very tough matchup this week. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers coming into town, and you don't want to hyperbolize it too much, but probably the biggest regular season game we'll have here in the past, since I've been around this team on a full-time basis starting in 2016. Again, don't want to hyperbolize, but it feels like that. You don't want to overstate it, and we're going to talk about this big matchup with the defending Grey Cup champs. But first of all, I know last week we previewed Ottawa, went in there, got the win, looked a little iffy there for a little bit in the third quarter, but have no fear. Nathan Rourke is here. Another solid performance. Have a hunch he's going to be the CFL Player of the Month. Have a hunch. We're recording this on a Monday evening. Should know that by Tuesday. By the time this airs, that'll be up there. But how'd you enjoy your first Ottawa experience?
I put it online, but I really loved Ottawa. Like from the city, the stadium I thought was pretty fantastic. It was a good atmosphere in there. It was an intense football game. Really good restaurants out there that we went to and explored the night before. And I love the first road trip that we had this season, and it ended with 2 points, which is a W, I guess, in football. But
yeah, weather-wise, we lucked out pretty good. It's death taxes and usually a little bit of rain when we're there.
It did rain in Ottawa.
It did rain a little bit. When we got there was, Wednesday afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, we got to the hotel and kind of had a stormy vibe, but it cleared out just in time. And yeah, you said it. We went out, had dinner and a couple of beverages. It was patio weather. Mm-hmm. I wasn't wearing shorts, I don't think, but it could have been shorts weather, and kind of an interesting feeling overall. They were preparing for the Canada Day fun, and there was police everywhere in anticipation of trouble, what have you. But yeah, overall a good vibe, and it's amazing. 5-hour flight home, always much more enjoyable overnight after a big win like that. And we talked last week to Dominique Rhymes because he was the receiver who stepped up big time against the Toronto Argonauts, the 44-3 win. And Keon Hatcher, who we're going to talk to in just a few minutes, he had the big game in Ottawa. Career high 166 yards, 7 catches on 7 targets. Had the big play of the night, the 71-yard TD bomb from Mr. Rourke to give the Lions the lead again, which they would not relinquish. Absolute perfect response to some of that third quarter adversity with the 2 interceptions.
Yeah, Keon was very impressive in that one, and it was his turn to step up in that loaded receiving core. It seems like there's 4 or 5 options every week now that we can really throw into. And although Josh Pearson only had, I believe, 2 receptions, the first
just the one.
It
was a big one. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that was a big reception right at the start of the game, and it kept that first drive going, or not the first one, but the second drive going, where Nathan ended up running 50 yards on a quarterback sneak for a touchdown. But Keon, and a couple of his catches too, great along the sidelines, great throws by Nathan, just clutch catches. Dominique Rhymes had another clutch one, kind of the game sealer, if you will, at the end there, right before the 3-minute warning.
Huge. Yeah.
So
was being covered very well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Ottawa brought it. They're a good football team. Their record definitely, we saw it firsthand. Their record definitely doesn't indicate what kind of team they are. I think they're going to be pretty dangerous moving on here.
Yeah, that Eastern Division, kind of a dog's breakfast, for lack of a better term. But back to the Josh Pearson, you're right. Lions were facing, I think, a 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, something like that. The pass from Nathan Rourke deflected, but Pearson is able to go up, react well, come down with it, makes that catch. That sets up the 3rd and 1. And Nathan Rourke proceeds to do his thing. The little bootleg around the left side, runs 50 yards for a touchdown. Pearson doesn't come up with that ball. That's a punting situation, and it's not a 7-0 lead for the Lions, at least not at that time. So that's another very intriguing thing with this undefeated squad, is the fact that a guy like Josh Pearson gets his chance, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, Super Bowl champ. Got a feature on him at bclions.com. Shameless plug for the website. Just the one catch, like we said, but it ended up being huge, and I think it was good for the team, good for Mr. Rourke to face that little bit of adversity. We've said this kid is calm, cool, collected, doesn't get too high after great moments, doesn't get too low clearly after bad moments, which you saw. The two giveaways to Money Hunter, love that name. And it's Keon Hatcher to the rescue, and a defense that bended on a few drives, didn't break. Good complementary football.
100%. And from our view, or at least my view on the sideline, when things started going wrong for us, and that was the interceptions by Hunter. Nathan, he was on the sideline. He wasn't visibly angry, wasn't pouting or nothing like that. He was pretty even keel. I did see like Joel Figueroa go over to him. I saw Jason Tucker, the receivers coach, go over to him, kind of just give him a pat on the back. And then we saw, in my opinion, I thought this was a very good play call where we saw Ottawa bringing a ton of pressure. And the second interception was totally because of the cover zero look where Nathan he admitted after the game he just threw to his first read, and Money Hunter knew that he was going to do that and picked it off. So it's a veteran move by the defensive back. But then the next drive, we see another look like that, but another blitz by Ottawa, and Nathan he reads the blitz and finds a wide open Keon Hatcher, and thankfully it was busted coverage, made the throw a lot easier, the throw and catch, but just a great way to bounce back. And then the defense, although like you see 31 points on the scoreboard, but I thought the defense had an awesome game. You look at the yards they allowed. Mazzoli wasn't getting much through the air. I know we did the first 2 weeks, so I think we're shaping up to match up pretty good against Winnipeg this Saturday too.
Keon Hatcher in just a couple of moments are the Lions' leading receiver now, by the way, after that big performance. We're also going to talk to Darrin Bauming, Bonfire Sports TV, formerly of TSN 1290 in Winnipeg, but like a lot of folks who were restructured out of those positions, I was one of them a few years ago, so I can say that myself. He's branched out on his own, and you and Mr. Bauming were in Hamilton for the Grey Cup last year. That's where we got to know each other there. A few late-night beverages in the FRC suite, Football Reporters of Canada, but we'll get his thoughts on this Blue Bombers team. And if you're a neutral fan of the CFL, not really cheering for anybody, and you want to see kind of all the stars come together, you might be a little cheated, for lack of a better term. Of course, Brian Burnham on the shelf. The Blue Bombers, by virtue of the short week, likely going to be shorthanded as well. You saw Jamarcus Hardrick kind of limping around post-game, got rolled over, and Kyrie Wilson has the Achilles, right? The linebacker. So tough luck for both teams with injuries, but this is clearly the game of the week, Nick. Yeah,
Winnipeg's also still missing Brandon Alexander, which I think is a massive loss for them right now. He's going to be back. He had ACL surgery. He's going to be back, I think, in sounds like next month or so.
On the sixth game to start the year, right?
In the offseason, The Nick Dembski's also out on offense for them, so big losses for them. But yeah, the star power in this game is pretty ridiculous. We got Nathan Rourke, Lucky Whitehead, Bo Lacumbo, Delvin Breaux on BC, for example. Like, there's stars everywhere. And then you got Adam Biggill, Willie Jefferson, Jackson Jeffcoat, Zach Collaros. Like, it's never ending. And you really keep going with almost half a dozen names on each side that are borderline star players in this league. So it's going to be... It's the one I've had circled for a while, July 9. Even going into the season, I thought we'd have a good start to the season. Faith in Nathan Rourke. I'm right up there with the teammates for having the most faith in him. But yeah, and Winnipeg's undefeated, and it's going to be a doozy on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to it. My old hometown too. So
your old hometown, emphasis on old. Yeah, and this offensive line for the Lions played outstanding through 3 games. Just outstanding. The best stretch we've seen of offensive line play in a number of years. Dare I go all the way back to 2011 with the likes of Joe Van Olafioye, anchoring that unit. And you had Angus Reid, always the reliable center. So, but this is going to be a next level test against the likes of Willie Jefferson, Jackson Jeffcoat, just to name a couple.
I'm no offensive line expert by no means, but I want to put it out there. Who's having a better start to the season at the O-line position than Joel Figueroa at the left tackle spot and Suk Chun at the right guard spot? I'd like to put that out there because I think, and from what I've seen at least, from my view, from watching the games on TSN, I think those two maybe are the front runners for, dare I say, most outstanding offensive linemen right now, but also their all-star positions as well. I think Winnipeg struggled a bit on the offensive line. We've seen they've had 2 guys on the interior missing right now, with Michael Couture being hurt, their center, and then Drew Desjardins was their left guard last year and went to the NFL. So I think they're visibly not as strong on the offensive line as they once were. Missing Andrew Harris, I also think factors into that. He makes that group look better at times. I imagine, just based off his fighting for extra yards and his ability to kind of make plays out of nothing. But it's still a solid group. But I think that they're not what they once were, at least on that offensive line position, and many others, to be honest.
Yeah, they're not going to run away with it this year quite like they did last year. No. Still a very good football team, and I'll still say it. I think they're the team to beat in the West. Yes. I think they're all. I know we disagree, but I think they are full marks for being number one in the power rankings now, just because, in a weird kind of way, they're not playing great football, but they're still coming away with the wins. I mean, you saw on Monday, Toronto, 3-4 critical mistakes, comes back to bite them in the behind. So I very much looking forward to this one. Again, can't remember a regular season game this early in a year that I was ever excited for like this. Maybe outside of a season opener, because season openers are always quite special. But don't want to overstate it. There's a lot of football left, a lot of divisional play. These teams will play twice more after this.
Yeah.
As they play every team in the West 3 times, and I think that's great to really measure themselves up in this competitive division. So very much looking forward to it. First and Now continues here inside the Go-Goat Sports Studios, the lovely Wall Center. Great setup here. Love being partners with Go-Goat Sports for this podcast. We've really enjoyed bringing you this latest stretch of episodes, especially when the team wins. Coming up in just a matter of seconds, number 4 was off to a good start after his number change, might I add. Keon Hatcher, Year 2 Lion. We'll talk with him next on First and Now. And we've tracked him down, number 4 in your program, the reigning CFL Top Performer of the Week. No doubt that earns him some high marks in the meeting in the film room. It is Keon Hatcher of your BC Lions. Keon, sir, good of you to be with us.
What's up, Bake? How you doing, man?
Doing outstanding, as are you, I'm sure. I know it's on to the next game, but no doubt you're feeling satisfied and proud given the big performance there in Ottawa. What's going through your mind after a wild game like that?
I really just feel like I did what my team needed for me to do to get that victory. Coach called the plays. We went out there and we executed. So I just, did my part.
From my vantage point, I mean, the interceptions in the third quarter, and you're kind of thinking, okay, here we go. But the big connection with Nathan after that, the perfect response. What are people saying to each other on the sidelines before you're going back out there for offense?
Man, just lock back in. Do what we do. We have full trust in Nate. We have full trust in our offense as a team. Just lock back in, man, and let's get out there and do what we do, on a normal basis, and let's go execute and make plays.
3-0 to start the year, and a big one coming up this week that we'll get into in a minute. But what would you say the 2 or 3 biggest reasons are for the hot start here as a team?
I would say the camaraderie, within the whole group. This team is very very close, within the whole locker room. Go from D-line to receivers, to O-line to DBs. Like, everyone is really close, and you can tell we have a really great bond. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would say our work ethic, in and out of practice every day. There's high competition between the offense and the defense, and I think that shows, when we get out there on Saturdays and, on game days. Games, seem a little easier than practice just because how high the competition be during practice, So, and then number 3, I would just say locking in, man. We've been very locked in, and we want it. We want it. We know we can have a big year, and, we're trying to execute and go do that.
Keon, that 71-yarder, I know it was a busted coverage. You were wide open. You probably could have ran backwards or walked in for all you wanted, right? But we always hear sometimes that those are the harder ones to catch. Did you almost have too much time, or what was going through your head when that ball was coming and there were no defenders around you? Man,
I seen the ball in the air. I was hoping they, threw it how he threw it, a light little touch pass just because it was so open. And then when I seen it in the air, I'm just like, look it in. I looked it in, and once I looked it in, it was bye-bye. So it was good.
Yeah. And what's the touchdown dance you had going on?
That was a little Kodak bop, Kodak Black. It's a little bop, little Florida dance that I had going. So yeah, shout out to Kodak.
Love it. Yeah, we had rhymes with the Miami one last week, and then perfect. And
Yes,
then
sir.
obviously a big change too this past week was you went to number 4 from 84. So what was behind that decision?
Well, I had that number back in high school, in college. In 2003, my uncle passed away on June 4th. And when I got to high school, we got to pick numbers and I seen the 4 and that just kind of, it kind of stuck with me. So when I got that, had that in high school, had it in college. And then when I got here, the opportunity presented itself. So, I had to get back in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure you did him proud with that performance last week. CFL top performer now too. I'm assuming a lot of people have been reaching out to you about congratulating you and whatnot.
Yeah, most definitely. The fam back home, all the boys, friends and stuff like that, definitely, congratulating me and stuff. But, the job is not done. We got a big game coming up this week, so it's time to focus on that, and get ready to execute.
Good mindset. Yeah, back to a regular week, a longer week to prepare, much different than the sprint it was to get to Ottawa. But how much do you guys relish this opportunity to test ourselves against the 2-time defending champs here, Keon?
Man, I think we are very excited for this opportunity. We've got out to a hot start, 3-0, but everyone knows, they were the last 2 Grey Cup champs. So I feel like this is the, real measuring stick. This is the true test, to what we can really do and what we can be this year. So, we're all excited for it, man. And, this week is going to be, some hard competition in practice just because of the excitement we have, for this week. So we're ready. We're going to be ready.
Big reason that they were able to get it done the last 2 seasons was the strength of their defense. Of course, the likes of Jefferson, Jeffcoat. Back there in the secondary, guy like Winston Rose still making plays, a big pick 6 this week against Toronto. What do you see on the film, Keon?
A strong defense. They got a strong front 7, like you saying with Willie and number 4. They got a, solid secondary, man. But, I feel like if we come out and execute, just do what we do our job, I feel like, we can manage and do what we need to do to come out with a victory.
Yeah, they're number 4. Can't forget about that Big Hill guy, of course.
Yes. He's a good player.
Yeah, good little battle of number 4s. I like that. That's a big storyline. We should be showcasing that matchup a lot more. But anyway, we're trying to build something big here, of course. And we talked to you back in training camp about how you had a year under your belt and you were going to use that as motivation to take a bigger step. You've done that through 3 games. Is it safe to say that those expectations for yourself have paid off here, sir?
Most definitely. I've always had high expectations for myself, man. And it's always, when the opportunity presents itself, you got to be ready. So you always stay ready. So you don't have to get ready. Those opportunities, they presented themselves last week, and, I made the most of them. And like I said, man, that was all for my team. Coach called the plays, and I just did what I needed to do to help our team get a win.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that maybe went under the radar a bit was there was obviously the absence of Brian Burnham, but it was you who actually went into Burnham's regular spots in the slot back position on the boundary side there. So when did you hear that you were going to be in that spot that week, and did that change your preparation at all for last week at Ottawa?
I learned probably, a few hours or till the next morning after the game when we found out, Burn was going to be out for a few weeks. But no, it definitely didn't change my preparation. I had to go back, look over some plays just because I was going to be in a new position. But definitely didn't change my preparation. Like I said, those opportunities come, you got to be ready. So I feel like I was ready that night.
Mm-hmm. And now moving ahead to Saturday here. Sorry, I'm assuming you're going to be back at that slot back position. So what's the mindset going up against the secondary Winnipeg here now in a different position maybe than what you're more used to in the CFL?
The mindset is make plays, man. The mindset is always make plays. With our whole group, 5 wide, we have complete trust, complete faith and all our guys. And it's just make plays. Nate throw the ball out there, go make the play. He's gonna put it somewhere where you can get it, so go get it. And Nate has that trust in us as well. So we're excited, man. Continue to get to work this week, and just get ready for Saturday.
Mm-hmm. One thing I wanted to bring up too, we talked to James Butler about this, but I'm not sure if you've played in Winnipeg yet, or in the CFL yet in Winnipeg, but you have played in Winnipeg back when you were with the Oakland Raiders, correct?
Yes, we did we had a preseason game against Green Bay in Winnipeg.
Yeah. Saw some highlights too of you making a late grab too when you guys were driving down the field. So I know that experience was maybe a little different just based off. I remember there were some issues with the field and whatnot, but what do you remember from that trip down to Canada while in the NFL?
It was good to get out the country, go experience something different. Coming to Canada or whatnot, but the field had to be cut shorter to 80 yards because of the field goal post little slot that they had took out the field goal in the end zones. And it's different for the NFL, so it was like a hole right there, and they didn't want anyone getting injured. So that was kind of different playing on the 80-yard field. But at the end of the day, it's just football, so it was all good.
Mm-hmm. And you're someone too you've been a couple of NFL rosters over the past few years. Something I always like to ask the players who come here is when did the CFL become a reality? Like when did you know you're gonna come up to Canada to play in the CFL?
I didn't know until it started getting dry. The workouts started getting dry during COVID. And then my agent hit me and was like, they like you, they wanna bring you to camp and stuff like that. And why not, man? I love this game, so I was excited to come out here. And God always has a plan, so you just stick to the script, continue working, and you never know what He has in store for you. So that's always the plan: just stick to the script and keep working. So coming out to Canada, man, has been a blessing for me and my family. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for what it holds, and I'm excited for the season, man. So we got to keep going.
Yeah, speaking of family, I know the first bye week you got back down to Texas and hang out with your daughter. Is that the plan next week again, Keon?
I wish it was, but it's a shorter bye week,
Right.
I'm probably gonna stay out here, get some treatment, get some training, get my body right, and get ready for this little stretch we have, man. We got a nice little stretch after this bye week, and hopefully we can go in this bye week 4-0.
Yeah, big stretch coming up between now and Labor Day. Definitely some heavy divisional play. But how much pride do you take in fatherhood? Definitely gives you a new lease on life, doesn't it?
Oh, most definitely, man. Most definitely. I take the most pride in fatherhood. My daughter, she means the world to me. You can ask anybody. That's my baby. Yeah, I take the most pride in that. That's the number one priority for sure for me. And me being out here doing what I love, being able to provide for her, that just makes it so much better.
You get her a new number 4 jersey yet, or what?
Yeah, it's on the way. It's on the way for sure.
Beautiful. There you go. That's great. Definitely motivation to keep performing, and we very much look forward to seeing what you have in store for the encore against Winnipeg. Listen, Keon, congrats again on another win and getting that weekly top performer award. Very well deserved. Number 1 in voting, and we'll see you out there this week.
Thanks, Beck. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Keon.
And we have found the man, Darrin Bauming of Bonfire Sports Television, joining us on First and Now. And Darrin, we have Nick here, and we were just commenting before we started. It's weird to be talking to you when it's not like 2:30 in the morning, and we're eating pizza and having some adult beverages there in the FRC suite in Hamilton. It's good to talk to you in normal hours.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm not just saying this, because I'm on with you guys. You two are two of my favorites, no doubt about that. Nick, with your earlier ties to Bonfire Sports, and then Maddie, you've been such a great help to me through the years, in getting things, that I need from the BC Lions and the rest. Yeah, really happy to be on with you guys. Hopefully we will have some fun in the FRC suite again in Regina this year. See if, one of our teams that we cover is there.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, if God willing, if we're lucky to be there, I might have to be responsible this year. But let's, we'll just cross that bridge when we
Yeah.
get there, and we'll take it one week at a time, as the old cliche goes. And
It's the gift and the curse, as they say, right?
exactly. And it's the FRC suite, always good times. Shout
Legendary.
out to Jeff Hamilton and the entire FRC crew, Daryl Davis, everybody. And we talked about this a bit at the time. You and Nick were there doing some work for Bonfire.
Mm-hmm.
And before we talk about the Bombers in this big game on Saturday, let's talk about you. How much are you enjoying it still? I mean, after the unfortunate events with TSN Radio, you clearly landed on your feet. Take us through it. How much fun is it for you?
I'm having a blast. Like, football is pretty much my first love. Like, it was, Howard Chuck and the Jets. It was Gretzky and the Oilers when I was really young. It was Michael Jordan. But when I started playing football in the early 1990s, like I just head over heels, and I started consuming football however I could, whether it was here in Winnipeg or whether it was on TV or the radio or whatever. Just fell in love with the game, found it to be such a unique sport, not just for what happens on the field, but like the the chemistry, the camaraderie, the gel, the team dynamic, and the coach athlete dynamic in football, because it's not just a head coach, it's your coordinator, your position coach, your teammates, the guys you go against every week. It really just kind of fueled a passion for me since then. And then, into my adult life and going, back to school again after time at university and being a little bit lost in my 20s, like many of us are, the opportunity to cover football and talk about football and write about football and hockey, of course. We are in a hockey hotbed here in Winnipeg to do all that, cover sports. And unfortunate and anxiety ridden times, following the loss of TSN Radio in a number of markets, including Vancouver. It was tough, but hey, like, this is a bit of a blessing in the 2020s and to have digital media and have the technology at a level where it's accessible for people for relatively inexpensively to, like, have a TV set in your house, or have a TV set in your apartment and be able to produce content and give the audience quality football coverage and quality hockey coverage. So I'm having a blast, as always. The Blue Bombers are still a very, very good football team with the back-to-back championships. People here in Winnipeg can't get enough of their Jets and their Blue Bombers, and really a ton of other sports here in the city and in the southern part of the province of Manitoba. So it's been a heck of a lot of fun and curious and excited for the future and when things continue to grow.
Yeah, and as we're broadcasting in here from the Sakaris and Price Shrine, the Go-Goat Sports Studios, and those guys very well. Donnie, Dolly, the 1040 crew, all landing on their feet on various platforms. That's good. There's hope for the business and there's hope for the industry. So that makes us very happy to hear that it's still going well for you. As far as this Blue Bombers teams go, not surprising that they're undefeated, but maybe surprising the way they've gotten there. I mean, case in point, the win in Toronto, a few takeaways. I started with Winston Rose, and that's what the Blue Bombers do, right? They make you pay for their mistakes. What's your overall read on how they've gotten to 4-0, Darren?
It's been an interesting ride to 4-0. Important to keep in mind that they've played only East Division teams
right
to start the season, back-to-backs, a home-and-home series with Paul Appelese and the Ottawa Red Blacks, a home date here in Winnipeg against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, a game that Winnipeg really put their foot on the gas, especially defensively, to win that game. A lot has been said about Dane Evans and the Hamilton Tiger Cats and why they're still winless on the season, but Winnipeg really kind of exerted their authority in that game. And then a game in Toronto just last night that didn't go down like a lot of people expected or, maybe suspected it would go. And to see a missed convert in the final moments, to not have that game go to overtime and be a 1-point Blue Bombers win. It's been an interesting road for Winnipeg to be 4-0. That all said, there is a lot of work to do here in Winnipeg. And a Mike O'Shea coach team, a team that has individuals like Adam Bighill and like Zach Collaros in the locker room, there is no complacency. There is never satisfaction, even if they're winning games by 20 or 30 points. They're always looking at ways to get better. That's just the way Mike O'Shea coaches his team. You could even hear it on the TSN broadcast last night when Winston Rose had that pick six. He's holding the ball a little bit like a loaf of bread down by his knee, not tucking it away. And you could hear Mike O'Shea say, "Great job, tuck your ball away." So like, congratulations immediately met with, or immediately followed by criticism and constructive criticism and coaching, because Brandon Banks could have batted that ball away from Winston Rose and taken points off the board. But I think the biggest area the Blue Bombers need improvement is on offense. They have not scored as an offense 20 points this year. And if the Blue Bombers defense hadn't been as locked down as they have been, I think maybe 4-0 wouldn't be in the picture right now. The defense is scoring. It was Willie Jefferson in week 3. It was Winston Rose in week 4. Nick Taylor, who went 2 seasons without an interception, is amongst the league leaders. I think he's tied for first with 3 interceptions on the year now. The defense is clicking, but the offense, it's just not looking the same without Andrew Harris.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe the glass half full perspective, if you're in Winnipeg, is that they're playing like this and they're still 4-0. So that's something to look forward to as well. But I got 2 hours on the clock. Let's debate. Was that a Brandon Banks touchdown or a Demario Houston interception?
Yeah, I don't know if 2 hours is enough, Nick.
Yeah.
Like I completely understand why the ruling on the field happened and why the command center upheld that ruling. If you like, it's been, people are looking at screen grabs, people are looking at slow motion and really slowing it down. Is the ball secured or not? Mike O'Shea mentioned after the game that, you know, the officials made it clear to him that they did not see Demario Houston maintain possession or secure possession of the football. And then you watch the play in regular speed, and it was kind of a continuation of a play. They both go to the ground. The ball is not secured. Brandon Banks comes up with it. It's between his knees. He pops up to his feet and takes the ball with his hands, and it's a touchdown. Fans here in Winnipeg are not happy. I think it would be way, way worse, like, you know, an absolute powder keg of frustration and anger if the Blue Bombers had lost that game in Toronto. They did not. So it calms things down a little bit. But I don't think I'm out of line by saying that's maybe probably is the most controversial play as far as officiating and ruling in the command center, and, you know, where maybe the truth lies in what we saw on the play. I think it's by far the most controversial play so far this year. It might end up being one of the most controversial plays, in a long time in the CFL. So that all said, I'm not criticizing the Canadian Football League for the way they handled it inside the rules of Canadian football. I think they got the call right, but I also understand why fans are upset. It would have been a nice moment for Demario Houston in his second career start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on the level of controversy on that play. Like, I see both
There's not
sides
enough,
too.
There wasn't enough evidence to overturn it, guys.
That's usually what it comes down to.
That's all it is. That's replay. I mean, there's no conclusive angle. And sorry to interject here, but Nick and I were texting each other throughout that game, and my instinct was that's an interception. They got to overturn it. Then you see the angle. I don't know if there's anything there to overturn it.
There's a lot of football showing in those freeze frames, right? So like if it was secured, you'd see more arm or hand around the football. But yeah, you're right. You need conclusive evidence to the contrary in video review to overturn the call on the field. So it is what it is. You know, it didn't have an effect on the outcome of the game. The Argos are still a 1-win football team, and a little bit of karma biting them against Winnipeg as well, because their 1 win came against the Montreal Alouettes, where David Cote missed a last-second field goal from a makeable distance. I think it was 27 yards, and the Argos came away with a win in that one. So 6 of one, half dozen the other, as the old timers say. And, here we are looking at an East Division, still looking for, a little bit of semblance of consistency.
Mm-hmm. So out here out west, we're
things
seeing
are good.
BC, yeah, we're seeing the BC Lions every day. There's I would say there's a fair amount of hype in the city about the team start and obviously the quarterback, Nathan Rourke. But an outsider's perspective, I'm interested to get your opinion on. I listened. I was listening to your Bonfire post game show, as I often do, last week, and I know that you're a smart man and you watched the entire BC Lions game against Toronto and saw what Nathan Rourke did. So I just want to hear what you've seen from the BC Lions team so far and what you're expecting this Saturday.
I love it when Nick Kowalski jumps into the live chat on Bonfire Sports. That's why we went live with all of our programming this year. But yeah, it's the engagement with people is awesome, and always good to have you on, Nick, as we used to have you back in the day, more consistently. But yeah, like the BC Lions are fun to watch. You know, we can talk about Nathan Rourke, and we will, no doubt, and rightfully so. The defense has impressed me. The special teams has impressed me. The job that Rick Campbell has done in bringing things together relatively quickly, you know, in his second full season as head coach, I think, you know, that should not be overlooked. That should be commended. When it comes to Nathan Rourke, I think it's his age and maybe, you know, just the amount of time he's been in the league. Great opportunity for him in 2021 to learn under one of the greatest in Michael Riley. And, you know, not just as a passer or a quarterback, but one of the greatest personalities and people, I think, is fair to say, in the CFL for a long, long time. So that probably helped Nathan a lot in just getting comfortable and learning professional football. It is quite different than college or university ball. And, you know, in Nathan Rourke's case, quite different than American rules football and 11-man and the rest. So to see Nathan Rourke play this way, I don't think it's hugely surprising. We all knew he had the talent. We all knew he had the ability. We saw him throw the football last season. He can make all of the throws, but to see him come in this season, be composed, be confident and calm, and to be as explosive as he has been throwing and running, I think maybe that's opened a lot of people's eyes that he is a true dual threat. To see him gain the edge, turn the corner, and use speed to actually beat defenders. You know, the Edmonton Elks had a lot of trouble tackling anybody in week one, but if you have trouble tackling a quarterback, it's probably not just the lack of tackling technique. It's probably something the quarterback is doing too. To see Nathan Rourke run with that authority and that aggression, I think is a really, really impressive thing for a quarterback of his experience and his age. But man, oh man, it really makes you wonder, you know, the sky is the limit for this young man. He's got tons of weapons around him, hoping Brian Burnham, you know, one of my favorite players to watch for a long, long time, is going to be healthy and good to go sooner rather than later. But there's a lot of weapons there. Seeing, you know, the tailback score so many touchdowns early in the season, it really, I think, has caught people's attention. But it will be interesting when the Winnipeg Blue Bombers come to town. I don't know if Nathan Rourke has faced a defense like Winnipeg's. I think you could probably say that about most quarterbacks in the league. They haven't faced a defense like Winnipeg's, but it should be a fun one. Short week for Winnipeg, so that there's going to be an added wrinkle to the challenge for Winnipeg in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And on the flip side of the run game, what's up with the Winnipeg run game? I know there's no Andrew Harris there anymore, but are they saving Johnny Augustine for this big game, or like what's going on there? What's your take on the underwhelming performances so far from that perspective?
Well, like, as you guys know, Matt, I know you're familiar with this in Vancouver for sure. It's like the old sports adage goes: the backup goaltender is always the most popular guy in town. What could he do for us if he was given the opportunity, right? Very similar to Johnny Augustine here in Winnipeg. During 2021, Johnny Augustine, when given touches, was explosive. Great ability to break tackles and run hard for a very, you know, more diminutive running back. He is a lighter weight guy. He is got great musculature and is in phenomenal shape. And I know he's been working with a speed coach over the last number of years here in Winnipeg after going undrafted out of the University of Guelph. Winnipeg is his third stop in the CFL. So for him to, you know, sign a new contract here this offseason, him and Brady Oliveira, essentially the two, you know, succession plans to Andrew Harris and the Blue Bombers being confident in those two to move on from the future Hall of Famer in 33 says a lot. But yeah, like, people here in Winnipeg are always clamoring for Johnny Augustine. You know, very common to say, His yards per carry is through the roof. Why don't they give him more than 3-4 touches a game? He had one rushing attempt in Toronto. I think he had one catch in Toronto. It was for a first down. He is a good football player, but clearly the Winnipeg Blue Bombers see more upside in, I think, the between the tackle running of Brady Oliveira. I think if you had to choose between the two, Oliveira more to the style of Andrew Harris. Nobody runs like Andrew Harris, but I think that's maybe more to the style Winnipeg likes to play, with the kind of smack you in your mouth, smash them up run game between the tackles. But you're right, Nick. It hasn't been a semblance of normality here in Winnipeg. They are normally run, dictate with the run. That opens up play action, the screen game, the passes downfield. That was the way they did it with Matt Nichols. Now that they have a legitimate passing threat in Zach Collaros, like a legitimate deep passing threat, defenses were very nervous, and rightfully so. Unfortunately, this year we have not seen the run game be as effective at all. And with what we saw in Toronto, I think we've seen that in stretches in time against Hamilton and against Ottawa earlier in the season as well, is an offense designed around the expectation that the run game is there. So the screen game and the hitch screens and the bubbles and all these types of swing passes to the flats that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were calling in Toronto last night, the Argos were all over it, and they just weren't able to get some consistency and continuity going on offense. They're going to stick with the run. They're not going to abandon it like, say, the Hamilton Tiger Cats do and run the ball 5 times in a game. Winnipeg did seemingly abandon the run in Toronto a little bit, but that short passing game can be used as a run game in a lot of ways as well. But that all said, I don't think this Winnipeg Blue Bombers offense has shown even a shadow of what it can be when that run game is there, and when this offensive line is back into the conversation of being amongst the best in the league.
It's interesting you mentioned the backup goalie thing there. It's funny, he's more of a Winnipeg Jet. Will go down as more of a Winnipeg Jet. But Bob Essenza, Darren.
Yeah.
I went to a Canuck game, Bob Essenza's lone year with the Canucks.
Okay.
And they were chanting his name because he was playing so well. Backup goalie, Bob Essenza for the Vancouver Canucks in the twilight of his career. Wow. That's how much the backup goaltenders are always loved. Hey, listen, one final one while we've got you here. You mentioned Zach Collaros. What is he, 24-2 since the trade, including playoffs? The 2 losses were meaningless games in the standings. What has made that fit so well, Darren?
It really is unbelievable to look at that win-loss record as the Blue Bombers starting quarterback and to look at those 2 losses and say, okay, well, one was late in the year last season when first place was locked up. I think he played like 2 series, if I'm not mistaken, in that game before Sean McGuire took over, and he gets credited with the loss, which is, we can debate that all day long too. But,
right.
The reality is whatever Zach Collaros, was thinking about in the back of his mind as a member of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, a member of the Toronto Argonauts, and getting traded at the 11th hour and 59 minutes and the trade deadline back in 2019. Like if anybody out there hasn't read the story or heard the story about how Zach Collaros was acquired by the Blue Bombers and how close to the wire it was of never happening before, going undefeated through the playoffs and winning Grey Cup 107. It is an unbelievable story of luck and fortune and, just the right circumstances of Jim Pop before, he was ousted in Toronto and deciding to move on from Zach Collaros. But whatever was in Zach Collaros' mind through that entire process in Saskatchewan, the big hit from Simone Lawrence into Toronto and essentially not even getting an opportunity to dress or play and then being acquired by Winnipeg, whatever was cooking in the back of his mind has started a fire inside of him that is burning stronger than ever. You could argue he's playing as well today as he ever has. So you can talk about head injuries, you can talk about rust, you can talk about time off or whatever it might be. Zach Collaros is an extremely talented football player, an exemplary leader, and somebody that, just meshed in Winnipeg immediately. It didn't matter if it was, Andrew Harris or Pat Neufeld or Stanley Bryan or Jamarcus Hardrick or that veteran core on offense, or the guys on defense, or the coaching staff. They see the way Zach Collaros carries himself on a day-to-day basis. He wasn't exactly part of that 5 a.m. club that the Blue Bombers quarterbacks of years gone by used to have. He's like, I'm not really into the mornings. So he came in a little bit later, but he put in more work than anybody staying late. And obviously the results on the field are there. And have been there. The win-loss record is unbelievable. I think you can give a lot of those wins to the defense. But, again, to go back to the Blue Bombers' absent running game right now and a little bit of vanilla play calling on offense, just things not clicking like they have been for the last couple of years with Zach Collaros at the helm. I don't think Winnipeg has played their best football yet on offense by a country mile.
One last question while we have you, Darrin, I have for you is I saw some breaking news come across the Twitter today is that Kyrie Wilson suffered an Achilles injury yesterday. And for my money, Kyrie Wilson's one of the most underappreciated players in the entire CFL. But how is that loss going to affect Winnipeg on Saturday here and the game overall?
I'm glad you mentioned him as, maybe an unheralded guy. When you're on a defense with the likes of Willie Jefferson and Jackson Jeffcoat and Brandon Alexander and Adam Bighill, it can be easy to look past some of those guys that don't have that name recognition or don't rack up the big sack or tackle numbers. Kyrie Wilson is a wildly underrated player in the CFL and one that the Blue Bombers developed from their practice roster over the last 3 or 4 years. To see him go down in Toronto on Monday was tough. Those reports saying he will be out a good stretch of time. You'd have to think the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are looking for a little bit of, depth at linebacker and bring somebody in. A veteran would be a good thing. Micah Awe of the BC Lions, already one of the names being kind of thrown around there. Other players that, might be on the trade block or waiting in free agency for an opportunity. I think Winnipeg is probably definitely going to do that. But that all said, as far as who they could have lost, as far as depth behind them, I think this is one of the areas Winnipeg can, ride that wave a little bit easier. Malik Clements was a member of the Edmonton Elks in 2021, played 7 games for them. Chris Jones came in, kind of cleared house, wanted to bring his guys in as he usually does. And that left Malik Clements without a football home. Winnipeg snatched him up, has spoken highly of him. And then what we've seen from him in training camp and in games when he's had the opportunity to play is, a rock solid, extremely versatile linebacker. It's important to be versatile in this Richie Hall Blue Bombers defense. They move guys around, play a lot of different positions. It's far from, okay, you're a weak side linebacker, this is your one duty. They really do move them around to kind of confuse offenses, and no doubt they'll be doing that against a young Nathan Rourke on Saturday night in Vancouver. But I think Malik Clements is a solid piece, and losing Kyrie Wilson is a tough one, and it will hurt because he is an excellent football player and an underrated one. But I think they will be okay. It helps when you got a guy like Adam Bighill and you see the highlight reel plays he's still making now well into his 30s. Just last night in Toronto, leaping all over the place, diving over the pile to stop quarterbacks on short yardage plays, running east-west, north-south, few can in football, period. It helps buoy the ship quite a bit when you got Adam Bighill there.
Very well indeed. A balanced football team. That's why they're 4-0. Listen, Darrin, quickly, where can our listeners and viewers find your work?
Yeah, so everything you need is on bonfiresports.ca, youtube.com/bonfiresports. You can find all the links to our podcasts, all of our live programming, pregame, postgame. We have a midweek show. We normally do Tuesday nights. We're taking a bye this week because the Bombers did play on a Monday, so it would just essentially be a second postgame show. But we're having a ton of fun, bonfiresports.ca. And before you let me go, I got to let you know, I'm still waiting on the BC Lions to deliver on that cash considerations package in acquiring Nick Kowalski from Bonfire Sports. So, what's going on? Who do I got to call?
Carolyn Cody's our marketing director, right? She does the trade. It's all hers.
Okay.
I'll defer. I'm not involved here.
It's a big package. It's a big package for Nick Kowalski.
Well, when we win the Grey Cup, the considerations for the package, hopefully you negotiate that in, that you get something more prestigious, right?
Yeah,
Isn't that how it works?
Better be at least a second rounder.
The more a player helps his new team, the more his old team gets, right? So,
right.
There you go.
Yeah, future considerations.
Listen, yeah, continued success, Darren. Thrilled for you. We enjoy the shows, and we'll talk to you again.
Okay, big kudos to you guys. Loving the work you're doing on the BC Lions website. And Saturday's going to be a heck of a lot of fun in the Battle of Unbeatens.
Awesome.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. A lot of fun and great to see all the success you're having on Bonfire as well.
Appreciate it. Cheers, guys.
Darrin Bauming, Bonfire Sports TV, one of our all-time favorites. And yes, we hope to, we'll reconnect with him in Winnipeg in October, like we talked about. Perhaps in Regina a few weeks later for the Grey Cup 109. Great stuff, does a great job. And I was watching some of his shows when we were in training camp and throughout last season. Really does a good job, and you can tell the breakdown he gave with this team. I think he pretty much agrees that they're not necessarily doing it the way they want to do it, but 4-0 is 4-0, and this will be a huge test for the Lions on Saturday.
Yeah, 100%. Darren knows the Blue Bombers as well as anybody in the world does, and he's someone I view as a good friend, a mentor even back in our days in Hamilton. He's provided me a lot of opportunity, and I'm super thankful for that, and it's always great talking with him, especially when it's ahead of this big Lions and Blue Bombers game this Saturday.
It will be the final game of Week 5, a bit of a different week. 3 teams on byes, Montreal, Hamilton, Toronto, all not playing. So there's potentially only going to be one Eastern team losing this week. Nick, that's crazy.
That's a good joke. Hey, we'll see what the Red Blacks do. The Red Blacks are going to be desperate in Regina, and the thing is that they got to go to Regina, so that's no easy task in itself, right?
Yeah, 0-3. The 3 losses by a combined, whatever it was, 5 points. So we got them by 3, and you have to think the Red Blacks right this ship. But you're right, that's not the best situation to try to do it.
It's one of the worst.
So Ottawa, we mentioned that, and then Saskatchewan, despite some more Chandler-worthy heroics for Montreal, they get it done in the rematch. They win big. Their defense was phenomenal against Trevor Harris and the Alouettes. So talking about the tightness of this West Division, made even tighter with Saskatchewan getting it done. They get to 3-1. But Red Blacks Riders on Friday. The week starts on Thursday. I love this. Calgary-Edmonton meeting twice before Labor Day. The Elks got off the schneid. Speaking of defense coming up big in Hamilton, those Tiger Cats, they find every way to lose, don't they? But Edmonton at 1-3, looking to build off that, and they get the 3-0 Stampeders coming into Commonwealth.
Yeah, this would be a good test for Trey Ford, especially in the second career start to the Canadian quarterback who kept the Canadian quarterbacks undefeated on the season. So that's a cool stat.
I neglected to mention that. So
yeah, I like that stat. But it'll be a good test. They're hosting Calgary this week, so I think that changes things up a bit. But they hung in there with the Stamps the other week, and I think Calgary's looked pretty strong. Bo Levi Mitchell's looked good overall, which is good to see if you're in Calgary. And I know there are some doubts about what he had moving forward, but it'll be a good test for Calgary as well. Edmonton, they got to win. They got to win in the win column, and I think that Chris Jones, maybe that's all they needed to maybe get things going. We'll see. The West is strong, so it could be bad for them.
Maybe the type of win that can galvanize a team.
I sort of see that.
And they don't want to fall behind the 8 ball, losing twice to Calgary in the first 5 weeks. So
yeah, I also mean they lost by 44 to us in week 1. So I think they're better than that team. They're better than they were on June 11th.
I was tweeting with somebody, forget who it was. Doing the after the Toronto win for us. Oh no, but it's Toronto. They beat Edmonton and Toronto, and it's Toronto had a long flight, and thinking. And I replied to the guy, said it was ex-Argo Jermaine Gabriel. Want to give the guy credit, and I replied to him at that point. I'm like, Edmonton could easily be 2-1 because they lost to Saskatchewan, close one, and then they lost in Calgary, a game they were winning by 9 points, I think, at one point. So I don't like playing they only beat so-and-so game. This is professional football, okay? Mm-hmm. As Neil McAvoy would say. So, but hey, all you can do is play your schedule, and now this will be the biggest test for the Lions on this young season coming in. Very much looking forward to it. We thank Darrin Bauming. We thank Keon Hatcher, the CFL's top performer of the week, for making an appearance earlier. The podcast on Twitter at First and Now. I'm at Bakes Takes 84. He is at Nick_Kowalski.
Yeah,
right?
Nick N-I-K.
N-I-K, doing it the simple way. Broadcasting inside the Wall Center, the Go-Goat Sports Studios. Bye week for the team next week, so we'll see what we can do. Might take a week off next week, but that's to be determined. I'll be up in Penticton, so it'll have to be remote if we look to do something. So yeah, got a little wine tasting planned. It's going to be good. So
I'll be in Surrey.
There you go. Sounds awesome. Lions Blue Bombers 4 o'clock on Saturday, and we'll talk to you in the coming days on First and Now.